Signalis is one of the best games I've played to come out in recent years. The last few years have blessed us with quality survival horror titles from indie developers. Alisa and Tormented Souls were two recent examples. Signalis continues this trend. With the vast majority of the work done by two individuals, Signalis is a masterstroke in survival horror. Elden and Dad of War are going to dominate discussions for Game of the Year. I hope Signalis gets its due in these discussions, as it's earned it. It's also getting a release in a busy time frame for new releases, both horror and other genres. The last thing I want to see happen is it getting lost in the shuffle. It's coming up for every major platform and Game Pass. I'm giving it a must-play recommendation if you're a fan of what I cover on the channel. A big thank you to Rose Engine, the studio behind Signalis, for giving me a review copy to cover. I'll be keeping spoilers to a minimum in regards to this story. Signalis uses a top-down approach. Best way of describing its look is that it wouldn't look out of place on a Nintendo DS. This perspective and style helps Signalis stand out, whereas most indie titles make use of the PS1 style for survival horror. Conscript, an upcoming indie survival horror title, takes a similar approach. There are some in-engine cutscenes, but a sci-fi anime-like style does most of the heavy lifting. For those who don't like the anime style, don't fret, it's similar but not straight up. It does help the game stand out. There is no voice acting in Signalis. In a way, it adds the surreal, dreamlike atmosphere. Music is minimal in our travels. There will be droning in our environments. Classical music will pop up throughout our time. Running into enemies kicks Silent Hill-like tracks into gear to build an overbearing atmosphere. Signalis is classic survival horror in design. We have limited resources. We can only hold 6 items at once. There's a poster about this. As a replica, our protagonist Elster has programming that made her that way. Items like ammo or healing can stack. You do have unlimited saves. Item boxes are never far away. I prefer when survival horror titles offer limited inventories. When done right, it adds further layers to the game. The decision-making element increases. You get into a flow as you navigate. The inventory has no upgrade for space. 6 slots are all you get throughout the game. You can't drop ammo, but you can destroy it to free a slot. There are many times in my playthrough where I'd have a full inventory while trying to pick up a key item. Some runs from item boxes I would do with 0 items to pick up as much as I could. Each trip back was always a decision of what to take, whether known territory or unknown. The classic Resident Evil titles are masters at this. RE7 and RE2 did a great job as well. It's great seeing another title outside the RE series get this aspect so right. Combat is what you expect from a title molded from classic survival horror. These creatures arise from a sickness that has struck this station. Some will stand around menacingly, others will patrol. There's not a huge variety of enemies, but it's not a huge issue. We can stealth past enemies by walking by, or we can make a run for it. Hallways and rooms tend to be narrow, so it can be tricky to get by. There is great tension trying to sneak by, only to hear the scream of an enemy who spots you. When chased to new sections, there's tension if that door head can open. You may need a key to open that we don't have. Signalis does not pause gameplay when we try to open a door or pick up an item. It also asks you if you want to pick up an item instead of automatically picking up if you have a slot free. These little details add up in regards to increasing tension, especially in situations where you're being chased by enemies. You have to act quick in these situations. As well, return to a room shortly afterward, an enemy might be waiting right for us right where we exited from. We can gun down these enemies, but ammo is sparse. You can use a prod to put them down for a time. Once they're down, we'll hit them to put them out of commission, but only for a select time frame. A few revisits to a room later and they will return to hunt you down. You can use items to burn them, which puts them down for good. Some guns are powerful enough to put them down altogether. Of course, these resources are far and few between. It's classic survival horror decision making. Should I stealth past them? I'll be revisiting this room or hallway often. Should I put them down for now or put them down for good? Doesn't take many hits from enemies to kill you. Repair kits can be combined to heal immediately, but with lesser effect. Else we could use one that heals over a period of time but heals more. Again, more decision making adds to the already fantastic tension. Signalis makes the most of how it structures its decision making process for some of the best survival horror gameplay I've played in years. Iffy bosses are common in survival horror titles. While Signalis has less than a handful, I wish there were a couple more. They're well structured, and the last boss in particular is a fantastic fight to finish off the game. In Signalis, we have access to modules for use. They need a slot for each one, and we can only use one at a time. The prod is one of them. There's an auto-injector to bring us back to life if we die. There's a flashlight for dark halls and rooms. Of course, also using a flashlight brings attention to you from enemies. There's a camera module. Signalis has some puzzles where you'll need a clue from another room to solve. With the camera module, you could take a picture for viewing to help you with the puzzle. I appreciate that this is an option Signalis. I usually play these kind of games with paper handies, so I didn't use the module much. With a limited inventory, not using it freed up a slot. Plus, when I talk about the story later, you'll understand why having paper nearby is ideal. You know what's creepy? Those number stations. The one that read us numbers for someone else to decipher. Who's on the receiving end of these? What are these messages? Signalis makes use of this with the radio. We could tune the frequencies for puzzle solving, like tuning to frequencies to open a lock with a microphone, or to receive codes to open vaults. There's a noble enemy we could deal with by changing frequencies. You could even flip through frequencies and come across these unsettling number stations. Where are these coded messages? Who are they being broadcast to? What's with the music? And to be honest, the radio felt like it could have had more done with it. Whether for puzzles or for dealing with other enemies, it's a noble part of Signalis, but there can be long stretches where we don't really need to use it. In Signalis, we will navigate areas that tend to blend into one another. It makes sense on a station like this, not every area will be distinct. It's not some eccentric mansion, so the map will be handy. The map will make generous updates as we progress, like telling you there's a computer in this room or a vault. I appreciate this as halls can blend in together. You don't need to try to open a door to see if it's locked, getting close enough will show you and update your map. Like Silent Hill, there are many doors that will never open. While the map will update if a door needs a key, the map won't say which key, so you do have to pay attention. Most sections will have one door that requires many items to unlock. Along the way, we'll collect these items and solve puzzles. This helps build that tension. What's waiting for us behind this door? One that requires half a dozen items to unlock. A good sense of progression is key in this kind of title. Signalis achieves this through these item hunts. You'll always be finding something new or solving something to move one step closer. Puzzles are what you expect from a survival horror title. Flicking switches to get the right range, fill the tank water with the right amount. Straight out of a Resident Evil title, with different values of course. There are several find a hint in another room and use elsewhere puzzles. Luckily they don't outright spell out the answers to them. You have to put in a bit of work to solve the rest. As mentioned earlier, you could use the camera module to take a photo. I'd write it down on paper to save a slot. I didn't find puzzles as intricate or difficult as other titles in the genre. That said, the overall puzzle of piecing together the story is the largest puzzle of all, much more so than other titles in the genre. The story of Signalis is why I recommend keeping paper nearby. There is a lot going on here. It's not told in a straight line. Much is up to interpretation. Going through my notes and footage afterwards, I have some idea of what happened. I look forward to seeing what others come up with in their experiences. We play as Elster, a replica awaking from her cryostasis, searching for her lost partner. Humanity has colonized across the solar system, under the totalitarian regime of Yusan. Replicas are androids. There are many different kinds, assigned different kinds of tasks, based on human personas. On this station, we're searching for a woman named Alina. There's been a sickness. Replicas and humans have fallen prey to it. We navigate through the station and descend into the mines. It's a journey that's like a trip into hell and the inner psyche. It's a real mind bender. There's the overarching lore of this galaxy, of the Empire. It's also a very personal story with Elster. There are elements of cosmic and Lovecraftian horror. The novel The King in Yellow makes an appearance. There's elements of individuality, conformity, dreams, and existentialism. Even though it's a mindbender, Signalis does also tug at your heartstrings. There are several characters beyond Elster with their own arcs. We'll run into them over the course of the game as we progress. With all these themes and ideas Signalis tackles, they manage to balance it out quite well. The lore isn't there just for the sake of it. It's used to help flesh out what is at the end of the day a very personal story. There are many characters we will come across, read about notes, or see in posters. Yet the main focus in core Signalis focuses on just a handful of characters. At various points, we'll cut to first-person sections. Key revelations or new mysteries can arise in these moments. They help stick out with this perspective shift. They always have me wondering what was around the next corner. Just when you think the game is building to an ending, it keeps going for the final act. I mean that in a good way. My playthrough was around 9 hours. I did stop several times to go through my notes on the plot and gather more footage. It's just the right length. It didn't feel like it wore out its welcome. Yet the ending was more than satisfying with the time I put in. There is more than one ending, determined by your playstyle. And there's so much here that's up to interpretation. I'm sure some astute YouTubers will make videos breaking down elements of Signalis. For any fan of survival horror, Signalis is a must-play. I hope it gets its dues and doesn't get lost in the shuffle of releases. It's a wonderful addition to the pantheon of survival horror titles that have been coming from the world of indie developers. From its excellent usage of survival horror mechanics to a story that pulls you in but leaves many aspects up for you to piece together, Signalis is one of the best titles released in the last few years that I've played. I look forward to seeing what this studio, Rose Engine, works on next. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the channel further, be sure to check out my Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Get featured in the credits, get periodic updates, and you'll get access to videos earlier. Thank you everyone. Boulder Punch out.